Good morning. I'm Reverend Jennifer Sachs. I'm the senior minister of Unity Atlanta Church, and it is my honor to welcome all of you on behalf of the Calloway family as we celebrate today the wondrous, the glorious, the beautiful life of Albert. And so I invite us now, as we take a moment, let us begin this time together as we do all things with prayer. Gracious, loving God, today we are here to remember and to celebrate the life of a man we deeply loved, Albert Lewis Calloway. Albert has blessed our lives in so many ways, and he will live in our hearts forever. As we celebrate and remember Albert's life, O gracious, loving God, we ask that you open us and prepare us this day in body, in mind, and in spirit to experience a new relationship with this wise, devoted, joyful, generous, loving man, a relationship born of spirit. May we now gently release what was, as we make room for all which shall be. Gracious, loving God, as we forever live in your ever-abiding grace, your infinite compassion, and your unconditional love. And let us say, thank you, God. Amen. And it is my honor now to welcome and invite to come forward the Omega Psi Phi fraternity as they help us bless Albert on his continued journey into everlasting life.
For we have been consumed by thy anger, and by thy wrath we are terrified. You have set our iniquities before you, our secret sins in the light of your countenance. For all our days have passed away in your wrath. We finish our years like a sigh. The days of our years are 80 years and 10. And if by reason of health or strength they be 80 years, yet their boast is only labor and sorrow, for it is soon cut off, and we fly away. Lord, who knows the power of thine anger? For as the fear of you, so is your wrath. So teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom.
in the 50s. Out of the night they covered me black as a pit from pole to pole. I thank you that regards may be for my uncomfortable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the blooding of chance my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears, looms but the heart and shade, yet the minute such you inspires you shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged the punishment the scroll. I am the master of my faith, I am the captain of my soul.
We are assembled here to pay our last respects to a member of our fraternity. As all life must perish, and even as we must come to the crossing of the great divide, so has our brother reached that stage. Let us then resign ourselves to the will of the supreme basileus of the universe, here making our final writs to this, our departed brother. Brother keeper of records and seal, you will read the memorial.
Albert Calloway, Omega Psi, 1979.
Albert was a proud member of Omega Psi Phi fraternity, the first fraternity birthed out of an HBCU by African Americans. For African Americans, he joined, drawn to the commitment to community and brotherhood. He was on the 1979 charter line of the Omega Psi chapter. Whether he was known as Albert, Clucker, Big Al, Happy Grandpappy, or simply Happy, he was always there with a listening ear, a personalized song, a comforting demeanor, or his best asset, a dance. His presence has brought joy and laughter to many people over the years, and his spirit lives on in our hearts forever.
Brothers, you have heard in the record of our departed brother. He has been a shining light in the bright crown of Omega. The radiance of his star will furnish a guiding ray to many who will come after him to seek the light that is Omega. The members of our fraternity are bound inseparably by a chain of friendship and brotherhood that makes the joys of one, the joys of all, that makes the sorrow of a brother a common lot. We share the burdens, toils, and cares of every one of us. We also share our happiness and pleasures, our hopes and dreams, our very life. The camaraderie-ship, my brothers, extend even to and beyond the grace. Neither height nor depth, nor walls, however how high or wide, can foil the deep desire of us all to be at peace with those, our brothers, in whatever state they be. Brothers, give ear to our chaplain who will speak.
My brothers, in this solemn hour, our hearts and the minds of others who knew our departed brother are indeed heavy with sorrow. The silent shadow, death, has again visited our Omega forest of life, felled one of our sturdy trees. But we do not sorrow as men without hope. The manner in which we live influences our attitude toward death. We are instructed that manhood, scholarship, perseverance, and uplift shall be the rules of life by which we live. He who has lived the manly life is well prepared to face death. To be manly is to live a life of high principles, to have a goal, to be courageous in the attaining of that goal. The steadfast adherence to so noble a concept, difficult though it may be, must of necessity be of inestimable value in the development of sterling character. To be a man may well mean to be a martyr to a cause, but the end of martyrdom is that one has lived not as a craven coward, but as those glorious men who have left to all mankind a record written in the blood of sacrifice, a record to be read by many who will come after. If we have lived as men, it cannot but be that we will die as men, when die we must. The world has learned its lesson from those who have sought the lamp of knowledge and who have made its glimmering rays their own. They have benefited posterity by building bridges of learning that have made the road of life easier for succeeding generations to travel. God has given us a world in which to work out our destiny, but he has not given to us a master blueprint by which to chart our path. He has instead endowed us with an intellect, the persevering use of which will bring its own reward, a life enriched by the inner light of scholarship may well be likened to a fruitful vine, which has borne fruit that has increased 1,000-fold. By such fruit is the hunger of many aspiring souls satisfied in their quest for life-serving knowledge. The principle of scholarship may well be the measuring rod by which the worth of a man's life might be measured. If we have wrestled with the problems of life in our intelligence and faith, have found the answer for more successful living, the very examples of our life will be an inspiration to others in like manner to seek the answer to the problems that beset our lives. If we shall have lived as true devotees of the Omega ethic, we shall not have lived in vain, because scholarship in all of its facets will have guided us in our calm contemplation of the inevitable. The history of the world has been the record of a steady progress of man in his environmental blueprint. The key to the riddles with which the world and nature have confronted us has been found by many men who have displayed the qualities of perseverance. Each age has passed on to each succeeding age a richer store of culture and advancement than it has found. When many men despaired and concluded that life held forth no promising tomorrow, the few hitched their wagons to their individual stars, ad astra per aspera, to the stars with perseverance, became Al Calloway's motto. By dint of purposeful persistence, the few produce lives much richer than would have been thought possible. It may well be noted that the timid man surrenders, but the resolute man prevails. To be his brother's keeper should be the aim of every man. Unselfish living is a rare, precious gem to be sought by all mankind. Not what we have, but what we give is the worthy standard for men who would uplift the race of men. The seed of the farmer sows loose its own life, but finds therefore a fuller life in the abundance of its product. We must reach down and lift our fellow men so that they too will stand as men of pride and character for all the world to see. This is the life that Omega demands of all of her sons. It is the lesson that we learn from our association one with the other. Such is the life our brother Calloway set before his comrades. The cardinal principles of our fraternity have so become a part of him that when the record of the Golden Book is read, he will not have cause to be ashamed. My brothers, let us not merely wipe away the tear that falls for him, but let us here resolve with God's grace that we shall continue to hold aloft the banner of Omega as nobly as he did, our departed brother. In so doing, we may be assured that the life we now memorialize will serve as a beacon to guide some other person into that life which is circumscribed by Omega's cardinal principles. Let us pray. Thou, O God, knowest our downsitting and our uprising, and understanding our thoughts afar off. Shield and defend us from all evil thoughts and intentions. Support us under the trials and afflictions we are destined to endure while traveling through this vale of tears. Man that is born of a woman is of a few days, and full of trouble. He cometh forward like a flower, and withers. He flees like a shadow, and continues not. Since his days are determined, and the number of his months is with thee, thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. Look away from him, and desist, that he may enjoy like a hireling his day. For there is hope for the tree, if it be cut down, that it will sprout again, and that its shoots will not cease. But man dies and is laid low. Man breathes his last, and where is he? As waters fall from the lake, and a river wasteth away and drieth up, so man lies down and rises not again. Till the heavens are no more, he will not awake or be roused out of his sleep. But yet, O Lord, have compassion on the children of thy creation. Administer them comfort in the time of trouble. Save them with an everlasting salvation. O God, the supreme bossless of the universe, the creator, sustainer, and the last repose of all mankind, we commend to thy eternal keeping the soul of Al Calloway. We know that in thy love and mercy he may find the confidence and rest that all men seek. We commend him to thee as into the hands of a loving father who cares for his children. Remember him, O Lord, according to the favor of thou that thou bearest to all people. Grant that, increasing in knowledge and love of thee, that he may go from strength to strength in the life of perfect service in thy heavenly kingdom, through Jesus Christ our Lord. May the God of peace, who brought again from the dead our Lord Jesus the Christ, the great shepherd of the sheep, through the blood of the everlasting covenant, make us perfect in every good work to do your will, working in us that which is pleasing in his sight, through Jesus the Christ, to whom be glory forever. Amen.
Brothers, all things are now well and fitting and accomplished. I hereby instruct the keeper of record and seals to strike the name of our departed brother of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity, Incorporated.
Albert Calloway, Omega Psi 79.
And commend to the supreme keeper of record and seal of this fraternity throughout all eternity, that he inscribed our departed brother's name on the rolls of Omega chapter. Here may where it shall furnish a light and adornment in even greater degree than here on earth. Thank you, brother. All right, thank you. Brothers, we will now sing the hymn, Omega Dear. Omega dear, we are thine own. Thou art our life, our love, our home. We'll sing thy praises far and nigh. We'll love Omega Psi to all thy precepts make us true. Live nobly as all real men do. Let manhood be our eternal shrine. With faith in God and heart and mind, through days of joy or years of pain, to serve the air will be our aim. And when we say our last goodbye, we'll love Omega Psi Phi. Of joy or years of pain, to serve the air will be our aim. And when we say our last goodbye, we'll love Omega Psi Phi. This concludes our service. Brothers, we'll have extinguished the lights. Yeah.
persecution, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory.
In 1974, I graduated from college at Georgia State, went away to seminary in Kansas City, and thought I would never be back to Atlanta again. And 27 years later, I came back, and lo and behold, was the minister of this church. Now, when I came back to Atlanta, I had a feeling and was somewhat prepared that I would be doing memorial services for my friends' parents. What was a shock and difficult was to do memorial services for my friends. It's the most difficult thing that a minister has to do. And so I'm part of that today, and I'm honored to be here. When I learned of the gravity of Al's condition, I tried to call him in the hospital and ask the nurse if they could put a phone up and we could chat. And was not successful with that, but I had a message for him after prayer, and the message was to convey, "Tell Al, well done, thou good and faithful servant." And so I said that silently across the airwaves without a phone, and I believe he got that message for his life. Well done, thou good and faithful servant. I want to talk just briefly about some of the things that we did together. By the way, we went through many difficulties together in this church, many of which I caused, and he stuck with me, and it deepened our friendship. One was we had in the congregation the founder of Flying Doctors of America, and he said, "I'm going to Peru, to Cusco, and then to Machu Picchu. Why don't you, on the heels of that, bring a group from the church to go and minister to the orphans there?" And we were prepared for that. There is no social service agency in Peru, and so the children are taken to the police department, and they have a big room, and they put them all together, both genders, all in one room, all ages, in a rundown place and substandard bathroom facilities, and we went there. And he was a leader. You could tell wherever he went, he was a leader. And we cleaned it up, and we brought them food, and we brought them sporting goods, and we played with them. And no bigger kid in the world than Al. Boy, he liked to play with them, and we had a time. And there was a man and woman on that trip who wanted to pledge their commitment to each other in Machu Picchu. And Al put his hand up to sing. And so in Machu Picchu, that great archaeological site filled with people, he burst into song and sang "My Funny Valentine." And that was Al, and everybody stopped. What is this big voice that is booming, echoing through the archaeological site? And it was a great and wonderful time. Then there was an opportunity that many of us in this congregation had to go to Melbourne, Australia. And Al and Lizzie went there and to be at the Parliament of the World's Religions. And one of our hosts there was a person of the indigenous community that the Parliament wanted to shine the light on how poorly they were treated over time. And so we were welcomed. And he had a great moment of his life. Ricky Byers Beckwith, great musician, song leader, put together a choir. And I was asking Lizzie, "Did you sing with that?" She said, "No." And Sandy, "No." And I didn't sing. They didn't want me in that choir. I knew that. But Al, that was a great moment of his life to sing with in front of the Dalai Lama and some of these great, great figures in world religions. So that was a wonderful moment. There's another wonderful moment that I want you to say. I had 42 years in ministry, and this is one I never expected to have and only had once. And I still can't figure out why we did this. But Al discovered that I could do ham bone. And not many like me, if you know what I mean, can do ham bone. And so we came up on this platform and we did ham bone. Now, he was much better. So I did it once. This will be my second time for Al. So that's the second time, and that'll be the last time, I'm sure, of playing ham bone. But what I can't figure out was, how did I work that into a sermon and preach the gospel playing ham bone? I was always a leader, in many ways bigger than life, and he always filled up a room. If he was in it, you knew the whole room was filled with his energy. He had a magnificent booming voice and laughter that would shake the rafters of the greatest cathedral. Once I gave a talk on humor in church, and I asked, could I have someone come up here and just laugh in front of the congregation? And we would all laugh with him. Everybody pointed to Al. Come up and just laugh. And the man can laugh. When I think of Al, I think of the picture that's in the lobby as you come into the sanctuary of him laughing. What a great laughter. His voice for truth and justice could not be silenced. You know his background and how he struggled and how he marched. And he encouraged me to march. I marched a few years ago in Atlanta, and I noticed an entourage coming by, and it was John Lewis and an entourage. So I learned that. He felt the sting of racism, marched for freedom. He spoke up. He stood up. He would not back down when it came to injustice for him or anyone else. He left this body that had a lot of pain in it over the years, but he lives in heaven, and he lives in our hearts. Many years ago, I was with a group hike in the mountains of Montana, and we were told that if you hiked high enough, you would get to a granite chalet where they had a heavenly confection, the best berry pie in the world. And I started up there, but I couldn't make it. The altitude and the fatigue got to me. So the others went ahead, and I went back down to the lodge. But I knew that we would meet again. We would meet again. Al has gone up that mountain. He has gone to a heavenly place. But I know, and you know, that we shall meet again. And I want to just leave you with a few words, because this came to my mind and heart when I thought of Al, and it was from Shakespeare, Julius Caesar. Only he acted from honesty and for the general good. His life was gentle, and the elements mixed so well in him that nature might stand up and say to all the world, this was a man, and this man was my friend. God bless you.
I say to you today, my friends, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream. I have a dream today. This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discord of nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day.
That was my father that you just speaking. Dra Crump. I am his daughter, and good morning to everyone, friends and family. What an honor it is to be able to come and celebrate my father's life. He was a very special over the last few weeks. I have heard many stories. Third one's the charm, I promise. Over the last few weeks, I have heard many stories. They've been heartwarming, they've been very touching, but there's always a common theme, and that common theme is how my father has affected you or your children. He was larger than life, and his shoes will be very hard for us to fill. As a true optimist, however, he never sugarcoated the way life was going to be for my brother and I. He drilled into us the importance of us standing tall, believing in ourselves, getting an excellent education, working hard, being an entrepreneur, overcoming adversity, being patient, a blessing, and laughing loudly, and enjoying life. He broke through many racial barriers, but personally, he made sure that we always knew that we were equal to everyone else. He made it a point for my brother and I to learn how to ski and play tennis and golf. He made sure that we rode horses and many other activities where we were a lot of times the only black children. And he would tell us we all bleed red blood. We are all the same. He made sure that we were comfortable in our own skin, and he made us proud of who we were and our history. Dad taught us to find the good in all people, and he approached everyone from that place of love. He did not become bitter when life didn't go his way. Instead, he would try to find the lesson that he was supposed to learn, or he would concentrate on that silver lining that he found. Growing up, I always knew he was an unbelievably patient man. And I remember, for example, coming home. I was so excited. I had just gotten my driver's license, and I went to tell him, and I mentioned, you may want to go outside, however, and check, because I had a slight fender bender with a 16-wheeler on my way to getting that license. And he just dropped his head and kind of shook it, and he lifted it, and he told me about the importance of yielding to trucks. And we had similar conversations, 5, in fact, in total, before I went to college. But don't worry, I'm a good driver now. I have 5 lessons behind me. As time marched on, I found myself calling him more and more as an adult. Throughout the past 27 years of my marriage, he has never been a stranger to our home, and he's known all of the children's friends, and they've simply known him as Happy. He was a staple in our lives, and over the years I look back and knew that when we would go to birthday parties, the children would look for him. He went to all 18 of my son's birthday parties, and they all knew that he would be there. When we went Christmas caroling every year, they knew that he would make fun of me, making them practice, that his booming voice would be there behind them, and that we would walk around the neighborhood and sing. He also knew that they would cheer him on. He blew whistles for them, he yelled at them at sporting events, and he made them feel as though they were his own. He was a grandfather to many, and that's because they knew that he knew them by name. He laughed at their stories, he cared about their dreams, and he loved them. I can confidently say to each and every one of you that you had a special place in that very big heart that my father had. And if he were here today, he would say to rejoice in his transition, that you are all loved by him and the Father above. I will miss you, Dad. I know that your spirit will live on through me, through my brother, through Donna and Amy and Trey and Kiara and Ava and Albert. Your legacy is strong, it's bright. Ava, Amy, I said Amy. I started with Amy. You're strong, your legacy is strong, it's bright, it's bold, and it's beautiful, just like you.
Afternoon. Afternoon. I'll do it again. Afternoon. It's supposed to be a celebration, so I'm trying to lift the spirits up a little bit. Every day I find out something new about my dad. It's pretty daunting and amazing and unbelievable. And actually this morning, as I was getting ready and all this other stuff, I realized my father was born the same year as Emmett Till. And it made me think about how he was and who he was and why he was the way he was. Because all of you all know the story of Emmett Till when he passed, and I can't imagine being the exact same age as Emmett Till when he passed, and in West Virginia, and dealing with the stuff that a black man in America back then and today is still dealing with. That was just random from this morning, but I actually wrote something. This is an excerpt of a letter that my father wrote online in search of a kidney donor. One I never saw until my wife Dion found it days after my father had passed. And it reads, these are his words. If I could honestly tell you the thoughts most reoccurring in my mind, it would be how often I think about my last days on earth, my last day on earth. Although I know life ends at some point, my heart is not willing to surrender its beat. My mind not willing to rest from trying to figure out how to survive. My spirit not willing to go silent because every fiber in my body wants to survive this horrific illness. You see, I suffer from polycystic kidney disease, PKD. It's a disease that's passed down from generation to generation, taking lives at every interval. I inherited it from my parents, and I passed it to my offspring. who will most likely pass it to their children. A disease carrying a legacy of anxiety, suffering, and death if not defeated. I wish I were the last person to bear this pain. No matter what I have to suffer, I know that I have to fight with all my strength, live with an abundance of gratefulness to demonstrate to the next generation what it means to never give up. My children mean the world to me, and for as long as I am alive, I will never just passively exist. No, not me. I will fight until my last breath is drawn. There's more to this letter, but I will stop here because he did fight. Man, he fought with all of his heart, his soul, until his last breath. He fought for civil rights, human rights, equality, a chance to sit at the table and to be heard. He fought as a teen to be accepted in a newly desegregated high school. He fought in college for freedoms that should be basic rights to every man. He fought as an adult for his children to be treated fairly in the streets and in the school systems. And he fought as an older man for his life with challenge after challenge, but with a smile on his face and a determination that was unwavering. It started with spinal stenosis surgery, and then it went downhill. He suffered a stroke, maybe 2, pneumonia at least twice, 4 surgeries, paralysis from the waist down, and he beat COVID. His last hospital stay was 23 days. 21 of them he was on a ventilator. My father was a fighter for good. The words escape me to truly put into context the relationship between my father and me. It was turbulent but terrific at the same time. It's hard to live in a world without him. But he did prepare me for whatever may be. Because one thing that he knew, and he knew it well, he knew the Lord. And my family and friends, the Lord will lead you through anything that this world throws your way. I'll say it again. The Lord will lead you through anything that this world, sometimes evil world, throws your way. I know this firsthand. As many of you most likely do as well. When God is with you and you have God, nothing else matters. When God is with you and you have God, nothing else matters. My last conversations with my father were about God, marriage, and following the Bible. It's prolific that his transition took place on June 8th. It was my 7th-year wedding anniversary. And as some of you all may know, my father was a 7 on his line. He always knew how to drive a point home, even on his last day. We have lost a friend, brother, son, husband, and father. He was so much for so many, and I will end with this. Cherish the moments. They build the mountain of memories we build our life upon. Thank you all for showing your love for our Father. Love, live life, and keep fighting a good fight.
Order our steps, dear Lord. Isn't that the prayer that we choose to go to all the time? When we let go of all the things we've been holding on to, all the heaviness, all the heartache, all that point where there is nothing left, and we ask God, sometimes looking up out here, order my steps. And we lay it all down at that point. And that was one of the beautiful things that I was able to share as the bookend, per se, to Reverend John as Al's minister in this later part of his life journey. That point where the human self of us is, as Al knew, I used to say, and our beloved community of Unity Atlanta likes to say, there's that point where we're holding on with the 2 fingers to the tree limb for dear life, and we're not going to let go, but it's just too hard to hold on anymore. And Lizzie and I had some of those conversations as well, separately and with Al, about what does this journey look like when we do what the poet laureate of Unity, James Dillett Freeman, calls putting on invisibility, and we are no longer in this earthly spacesuit. Al teased me when I said, I never heard anybody call it an earthly spacesuit. And I think he had a moment where he was feeling a little bad about his spacesuit. And I said, Al, but the thing is, this is just the outer garb. It's the inner presence that matters. And so to be among y'all today as one of the people who in the circle knew Al the least, I'm grateful for that gift that is a blessing to journey with someone at the end of earthly days, as opposed to at the beginning. And there's so many ways that, as Reverend John shared, Al blessed this community. He truly, children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren know this so much, wanted the children to have a legacy of wisdom, to have that gift that would allow them to order their steps according to, as we say in our teachings, the one presence and the one power in the universe and in our lives, God the good, omniscience, omnipotence, omnipresence. And so he was a fixture in our youth and family ministry. He was a fixture for those children at Laurel Heights who needed someone to show them the spirit of strength, the spirit of joy, to show up happy every time he went there. And there was a day that we had a conversation, and he said to me, Reverend Jen, I've noticed that you are doing all these daily words and you got all these copies. I think the children at Laurel Heights would appreciate them. And I said, Al, I think that is a beautiful idea. And so he would take the daily words, whatever daily word it was, for all kinds of things of spirit, of faith, of strength, of wisdom, of joy, of assurance, every week Al was going as the presence of God in expression, as our teachings taught. Every week, for weeks and weeks, blessing these children who might not have any other one to help them see that there is an order to our steps, the God order in, around, and through all things. And he truly believed that. He was a board member in this church, supporting Reverend John, paving a way for me to arrive here, cutting up in the choir. And of course, as you could hear that voice, you heard it come through. I had the honor in 2 different services to celebrate our Sunday service for Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The first time we did this, it was with our youth and family ministry, and here, as if Dr. King were here himself, the children and Al read those words, weaving together a beautiful medley of that wisdom that Al himself witnessed. The second time, the last time that Al and I could do a service physically together, we took the service. I had no idea how God guided this was. It was actually the last message that Dr. King gave. It was the message in 1968 before his death that he gave in the blessing of the sanitation workers. At that point in his life, Dr. King, knowing that this wasn't merely about what this earthly spacesuit looks like, but how we live from the heartbeat of what is within us. And Al and I took that sermon and he read the words and we wove that message together, rehearsing one day when Kendra called. And we prayed with her. We were sitting right here on the steps in this sanctuary. Because wherever Al was, for each of you loved ones in his family, he carried you in his heart and loved you each so much, with stories and words. There was a conversation that Al and I had at our last prayer chaplain meeting. And the way that a person knows how one is with their own heart is truly how they will let their own tears flow. And there's an intimacy between a congregant and a minister that I'll tell y'all, I never assume, especially as being kind of the new kid in the group. And Al was sitting beside me in that chapel where some of us were gathered earlier as the family, and we were looking out at that angel. And Al was sharing some feelings with me. And he knew the time was coming. As James Dillett Freeman says, to put on that cloak of invisibility. And he wept. And we held each other. And he asked, would you walk with me however it goes? And I said, of course. And I promised him in those moments to walk with each of you. Lizzie and I have had many a phone conversation. We had a Zoom gathering. AJ and Kendra and Lizzie and I. AJ not visibly, but on audio. We are so grateful for the technology that allows us to be together. And beloved community, let me share with you what I shared with them. That this is a process we each go through of remembrance and of mourning. And I would be remiss in these moments as the minister not to say to you that it is okay. I hope you will open your hearts and let the tears flow as feels best. That you will be gentle with yourselves and one another as the spirit of your body catches up to the reality that Al has put on invisibility. That you will laugh at yourself when you put the cell phone in the freezer and try to put the ice cream in your pocket, because that is what grief does. Or if you realize you're driving and have no idea where you're going. That the order of our steps as we experience this new time without Al's physical presence is a reminder that God's love for us is so ordered. As Jesus said to his followers, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted." And that is the beauty of our gathering this morning, that we can comfort one another. And especially at this time, I encourage each of us to feel and invite that presence of God to let go of the two fingers holding on and just let go. And let that presence of God be with us, each of us, in the laughter, in the tears, in the joys, in the stories, in the pictures, especially in the memories. As the ancients would say, death does not mean gone forever, but gone from this place and from our sight. And so, dear ones, beloved community, let us be comforted in knowing that even though Al has put on that cloak of invisibility, he lives on in here, in each of us. And however we carry Al with us, wherever we are, Al lives. And that truth and that strength and that love can never, ever be taken from us. There are so many who have loved Al, and I am honored to invite his grandchildren, Kiara, Donna, and Ronald, to come forward to share some acknowledgments as we remember Al.
Good morning. Good morning. Oh, I'm Kiara. I'm the eldest granddaughter. We just wanted to give our sincere gratitude for the many wonderful blessings, love, and support you've shared with us during the illness and passing of my grandfather, Albert Calloway. Your thoughtful expressions through telephone calls, cards, prayers, text, emails, gifts, flowers, and other demonstrations of love are warmly received and will be remembered. Our prayer is that God will continue to richly bless each and every one of you. We would like to take a moment to leave everybody with a little bit of happy to take with us in our day-to-day life so we can continue his legacy. First, do your personal best. This one resonates with me most. As an adult, helps keep me sane. Focus on what you're doing. Stop looking at what others are doing. Show up and be the best version of you, and nothing else matters. Secondly, be kind. My grandfather did not care who you were, where you came from, what you looked like, who you loved, or your situation. He treated every person with love and respect. He always offered a listening ear during hard times, and he was everybody's biggest cheerleader when they accomplished even the smallest of tasks. Thirdly, be a yes man. Work hard and dream big. And remember, if you work smart enough, information becomes money, and you too can be your own boss. Remember to spread joy, whether that be a personalized song or dance, a phone call to an old friend, or just chatting with your local Costco cashier. Lastly, life is about the journey, not the destination. To be truly happy is a mindset. Pray and meditate daily, and remember you are loved by me and the Father above. Thank you.
Hello, and thank you for being here today. My name is Donna. Happy could make anyone smile and had the ability to brighten up an entire room with just his presence. As many of you know, Happy was the most caring, loving man who touched the hearts of many with his kind words and his singing. I was lucky enough to know him my entire life and have him as my biggest cheerleader. To me, Happy was the person who knew that I would do extraordinary things with my life, and I plan on making him proud. I want to thank him for how much knowledge he shared with me with every chance that he had, and it made me a wiser and kinder human. I want to end by saying thank you to Happy. Thank you, Happy, for everything you did to help shape me into the independent, good-hearted person I am today.
Thank you. And my name is Ronald. Happy Grandpappy. He was always just that, happy. Looking back on our times together, I always picture him joking, smiling, and of course, who could forget the iconic happy laugh. He was the most positive person I've ever encountered, and no matter the day or the circumstance, whenever I talked to him, I'd ask how he is, and he'd always say, well, I am blessed and so are you. And whenever I try to complain about my hectic life, he would say something along the lines of, well, as long as you did your personal best, that's all that matters. And after a long week, although that would be frustrating, there was no one that I'd rather turn to because there was truly no one like Happy. Happy Grandpappy, you will be missed, and I love you. We would like to close in poem as we remember Happy. At the rising of the sun and at its going down,
We remember him.
at the blowing of the wind and at the chill of the winter,
We remember him.
at the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of the spring,
We remember him.
at the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of the summer.
We remember him.
At the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn.
We remember him.
At the beginning of the year and when it ends.
We remember him.
As long as we live, he too shall live, for he is now a part of us as we remember him.
When we are weary and in need of strength.
We remember him.
When we are lost and sick at heart.
We remember him.
When we have joy we crave to share.
We remember him.
when we have decisions that are difficult to make,
We remember him.
when we have achievements which are based on his.
We remember him.
As long as we live, he too shall live, for he is now a part of us, as we remember Big Al.
As we prepare to close this time of the formal service, let's just take a moment and one more time center ourselves in that power and that presence of God. To feel God's presence. To know that that spirit of Al is alive and well within each of us. And one of the people who traveled a beautiful journey with Al is coming forward, someone I am so overjoyed to have shared time with Al with and to work with here at Unity Atlanta, our own executive director, Pam Johnson.
I have 1,000 stories I could share, but that's not what I'm going to do. Just know how much I loved him. What I'd like to do right now is just kind of explain how the recessional is going to work before Reverend Jennifer does the final benediction. Reverend Jen and Reverend John will lead the immediate family. Lizzie, AJ, Kendra, and the grandchildren out into the lobby where they will be lined up. The rest of us will stay seated until they're out there. And then we'll go out one at a time and just have a word with the family, because I really do want to speak to and acknowledge everyone who came. So the family will leave first, and then once they're ready in the lobby, the rest of us will be allowed to go and speak with them. Thank you.
And so let us close this time together with prayer. The prayer we share together is our prayer for protection, a version we call the Prayer for Protection Extended. This too was written by that great poet laureate of Unity, James Dillett Freeman, and this is the same prayer that in 1969 was taken to the moon. And it reminds us that power and presence of God is with us and within us everywhere, all the time. And so if you know this, I invite you, as we can't kind of recite out loud the way we're often accustomed to, that you recite it in your heart or silently to yourself with me as we now bless Al into his next beautiful experience of everlasting life. Al, the light of God surrounds you. You are the light of God. Albert, the love of God enfolds you. You are the love of God. Albert, the power of God protects you. You are the power of God. Albert, the presence of God watches over you, and Albert, you are now in the loving, eternal presence of God. And so it is, and so it shall be forevermore. Dear ones, beloved community, may God bless you and keep you. May God's face truly shine upon you and be gracious to you. May God's presence always be felt within you, and may God grant you comfort and peace. Amen.